Welcome to People, Places, and Things, a travel podcast that brings you captivating stories, fascinating people, and unforgettable destinations from all around the world. I'm your host, Ryan Lowe. Let's dive into this journey together. On today's episode, we have Taylor Gerace from Alaska. Welcome, Taylor.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First, I want to talk about your upbringing. How was growing up in Alaska?
Growing up in Alaska was awesome. I feel really fortunate that I did get to grow up there. I did move around a little bit growing up, so every few years we moved around after I was about 6 years old. So, but every summer we'd come back to Alaska, and I spent high school and college there. So I always just consider myself an Alaskan still. It's always home to me. But yeah, it was great. A lot of skiing, a lot of being in the outdoors, and if you don't do those things, you kind of you just kind of get a little bit stir crazy if you don't have something fun to do when it's dark out. So a lot of skiing, a lot of being in the backcountry, a lot of being over at Alyeska and Girdwood, but the summers are beautiful. Summers in Alaska, I mean, I always say you can't beat them. So being able to go fishing and going out to Homer or fishing on the Kenai are some of our favorite things. So I feel really blessed to be able to have grown up there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never been to Alaska, but just the sheer beauty and wildness of it, and they call it the last frontier, and there's a reason for that. It's uh, hardly, there's hardly many cities. I mean, you got Anchorage, but
Yeah.
other than that, you really don't have much. And all you have is the outdoors. So
Right.
you have to grow up wanting to, to be outside and love nature.
Yep.
Uh, what eventually led you to Park City?
Well, so I did, like I mentioned, we moved around a little bit growing up. So when I was in middle school, I lived here in Utah. My dad got a job here and that took us here. So I lived out in Draper actually for, I think it was 3.5, 4 years, something like that. And so I was already a little bit acquainted with Utah and how awesome it is to be here. And when my husband and we love Alaska, but the darkness did kind of start to get to us, well, probably me more so as we've gotten older. And, he got a job at Delta, and I always wanted to work at Delta. And so that Salt Lake City was one of the bases. And we did explore looking at, I mean, we just were mountain people. So we wanted to be somewhere in the Rockies. And we looked at maybe Montana, Wyoming, and even Colorado, just because Denver is a United Airlines base. But we settled on Salt Lake City, and I was familiar with it. I knew we would love Park City because, again, we're just ski bums, at heart. So yeah, and so that's what kind of brought us here, and it just made more sense to be able to drive 30 minutes to get to the airport, which is what we have to do a lot for work, and also, just being so close to skiing and fishing. And so we're really happy we made the move, and it's been nice to have sunshine. It's always funny because people laugh when I say that we moved here for sunshine. But it's like the best of all worlds. You get sun and snow, and it's perfect for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's incredible. You are a Delta pilot, so travel is a massive part of your life. Talk about what inspired you to become a pilot and some of the challenges you faced in a mostly male career.
Yeah, so I started flying when I didn't realize I wanted to fly until I was in college. I grew up and my grandpa was a pilot and my dad had his private pilot's license, but I just never really saw myself doing it. I probably just because I saw older guys do, like nobody like me I have never really seen anyone like me do that. And I was in college and I was going to class and I see this girl and she's got like 6-inch stiletto heels and I'm in like sweatpants going to this like computer information class. I don't know. And I'm like, who the heck wears stilettos to a college class? I don't know. But super cute. I ended up getting to talk to her. We were in a group project together in the class, and she ended up becoming my best friend on the planet. And she was a helicopter pilot. And we went to high school together, but I she was not really in high school. Like she was in our high school, but she graduated early and um we never crossed paths for some reason, but anyway, so she invited me to go flying in a helicopter she owned, and I would always get to set the transponder and do little silly things for her, and fell in love with it. And she invited me to this huge nerdy event for pilots. It's called Oshkosh in Wisconsin. And it's just like the mecca for everyone getting together and nerding out over airplanes. So she took me to that, and I watched all the cool air shows and looked at all the airplanes and got to go to all the booths and you know, fell in love with it after that. So I mean, I think on when I got back on like a Tuesday, I ended up signing up for a discovery flight and never looked back. So that's how I got into flying, was through my best friend essentially in college. But as far as challenges, you know, one thing about aviation is it's really nice because everything's really black and white with the regulations and ways that you are held to a certain standard to achieve something. So, I don't always think that there's a lot of, I mean, people assume like, oh, you're a girl, maybe you got the interview over someone else because of being a diversity hire or whatever. But at the end of the day, you still have to answer the same questions. You still have to perform and do the same maneuvers and the same validations, and you're held to the same standard essentially. So, that part's been really nice in that regard. But I mean, there's definitely been challenges where there's creepy people that have been super weird in the past on flights or that make certain comments like passengers do, or they think that just because if you're more girly that you don't know what you're talking about or you don't know what you're doing, which is I think a huge misconception. But you know, I would say that that can be kind of a challenge sometimes, but honestly overall it's a great career, and once you're in it as a girl, there's so many cool chick pilots and guy pilots too. It's all the same. You just end up meeting a lot of really awesome people. So,
That's incredible. So, how long have you been a pilot? And tell me about some of the uh, more cool places you've been and the more some more cool experiences you've had since being a pilot.
yeah. I've been a pilot for about 6 or 7 years now, something like that. But I've only been at the airlines. I started out flying in Alaska. I got all my ratings up there, went and flew. Um, not to get super into the weeds on stuff, but there in part of the regulations, I flew cargo up there, Part 135 in this airplane called a Beechcraft 1900, so turboprops. And we flew cargo up there, and then I went to Alaska Airlines for a couple years, and then here at Delta. So I've been in the airlines about 2.5 years, but 6-ish years total. And yeah, the some of the cooler places, honestly, I think would be flying in Alaska. I think that's been some of the most fun flying I've ever done in my, and I feel really fortunate that we've gotten to experience that because you just see places that people would never get to see, flying out there along the Aleutians and down to Dutch Harbor and Adak and these really remote places. We would even fly to the Pribilof Islands, which is this really tiny island in the middle of nowhere. I don't know how many people live there, but I think it's like 50, if that. Like a police officer comes like once, a month to check on the community.
Holy cow!
Yeah, it's super funny. But, anyway, it's a really cool flying, so beautiful up there. Lots of volcanoes, and you just get to see these really cool areas of Southeast Alaska too. And so I would say that was my favorite. But for flying for the airlines, I mean, it's such a different contrast because now you're going to Mexico or Hawaii, and that's great too. So, I mean, I haven't done when you start out in the airlines, flying for like a legacy airline like Delta or Alaska, you are you start out usually in what's called narrow body airplanes, so the 737 or the Airbus 320, um, the 220, just these smaller airplanes. But they're still big, but in, retrospect, smaller than, let's say, a 777 or a 787. So we're not going to over to Europe, but we'll do like a lot of Mexico. At Delta, people in New York will go down to the Dominican Republic and just stuff like that. So you get to see some fun stuff. And honestly, what's kind of been cool, because I haven't seen a lot of this, but flying to some of these flyover states, like going to Cincinnati or just weird Indianapolis, and it's kind of been cool checking different places out that you probably wouldn't have normally gone without work, so it's been cool.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone has every place has their own like unique thing or food, restaurant, style of, just culture in general. So something could be said about, like you said, Cincinnati or something like a place where people, usually don't think of. Usually people think of Alaska or these grand places, but everywhere has their own beauty and everywhere has their own thing that is
Yeah,
special.
yeah, definitely.
But it's incredible that you do get to fly and go to all these places and have these experiences, and it's just incredible to be able to do that. I mean, I flew a little bit. I have maybe I have my flight log. It's like maybe 17 hours on there, but
So cool.
like I just love it. And I'm passionate about it, and maybe one day I'll be up there and have my private and be
Yeah.
flying my friends around and stuff. So that'll be cool. And so, but uh, going back to college, you were traveling before you even got with the airlines.
Yes.
So travel was a part of your life beforehand. One of your travel experiences was the semester at sea, where you lived on a cruise ship, took college courses while visiting 40 different countries. Tell me about the experience and the route the cruise ship went.
Yeah, I could not recommend Semester at Sea enough. I mean, it's such a cool way to get to see, yeah, like you said, a bunch of different countries. And I mean, I think if you want to learn one language, you know, obviously it's better to just immerse yourself in Germany or Italy or something like that. But this for me, I wanted to see everything. And it's so perfect because then all your stuff is just sitting on the cruise ship waiting for you, and you just get to go off and explore and check out all these countries. And it's a lot of people think that I was working on like a like a real cruise ship, like a what's like one of those main ones, like a
Like Norwegian or
yeah, or like a
Royal Caribbean.
Royal Caribbean. I'm like, no, it's essentially a school that owns this cruise ship, and it's a smaller cruise ship, but I think it still holds like, man, I'd probably mess this up, but it's probably like 500 people or 500 students, something like that. So it's still a big, a bigger cruise ship, but um, what happens is they are affiliated with a certain school. And at the time I went, they were affiliated with the University of Virginia. So I went and applied, and I think I had to apply through University of Virginia. But anyway, so when you go on, you meet down in, I think we met in like Southern California, but then ended up like taking a bus in through Mexico because it was cheaper with the docking fees. But um, yeah, it was awesome. We started down there, went through Hawaii, then up through Japan, all throughout Asia. Went down, spent a day in Mauritius after India, kind of went down to South Africa, all the way around up into Morocco, and then Europe and Iceland. And well, I did Iceland on my own, but then went back to Alaska. So yeah, I mean it's a really cool way. They have like a ton of scholarship options, so that's how I did it, was a scholarship and small student loan, and was still able to make it work, but couldn't recommend it enough. I mean, I will say though, you still have to have some street smarts, because even though it is a school, you can definitely get yourself into some trouble in like India or Vietnam or some of these places. So you definitely have to have your wits about you a little bit so you don't get into trouble too much. Um, but yeah, it was awesome getting to meet kids and students from all over the country, and actually there was a lot of kids from Mexico that did it as well. So made a lot of friends down there. But yeah, it was awesome. It was really awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. Uh, to be able to experience like the world and be at sea doing college courses and like still you have like the college life, but you're on a massive boat essentially. And
Yeah.
you're going across the world and stopping at these ports that most people have never got to see anyway. So, and um, I'm sure that was an insane experience. Tell me about like your favorite moment during that time.
Um okay, so I mean there's many different countries I loved, but there was this crazy trip in Vietnam. And so what happened was, we didn't have, I mean, there was like a little bit of internet at the time you could pay for, but we really didn't get much internet. So there was like these school computers and on the ship, and we logged in, and I think I mixed up this island in Africa with this island in Vietnam. And we didn't have cell service or anything. So we end up booking these tickets through some random travel agent in Vietnam. And we were not sure if these tickets were real. And we ended up like sleeping on the street outside the airport until it opened. And uh and then it opened and we were like there might have been maybe like 10 of us, and we were like, man, I really hope these airline tickets are real, because we were going to go down to this island. And it was awesome. The tickets were real. I think we paid some guy on the street that we met through this weird website. It was so weird, but really funny. So it ended up working out, and we get there, and we're so stoked. It's this like very remote island and it's beautiful. It's very local, a lot of beaches, and we're staying on these insane huts on the beach. And we're like, okay, well, this is going to be so good for a few days. And the guy showing us around to the huts and everything was like, oh no, there's no way off the island for another week. And we were like, what? We have to meet our ship, like our cruise ship, back in like 3 days. And if we don't, we're going to fail like all of our exams and we're going to get like expelled. This is gonna be so bad. And so we start freaking out, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so he ends up telling us there's a 24-hour ferry to get off the island. And we end up, I mean, it was still so fun. We ended up on these fishery boats with these locals, and we didn't speak the language, and it was super special. We rode scooters around and ate amazingly. But then we got on this ferry, and we had no idea what part of the mainland it was even going to. But we're like, okay, we just got to get on here. And half of my friends are throwing up for 24 hours. There's like these creepy bunk beds. It's like it was a decrepit ferry. I mean, it was so gross. I don't even know where we got food. I think we had like crackers in our bag and maybe some wine, I don't know. But it was so bad. And we get back to the mainland and we're like, "Oh, thank God. We're here." I don't know where we are in Vietnam, but we are on the mainland. Like we can figure out some way to get to this freaking cruise ship. And so that part was great. We end up getting in this van packed with like 20 people, and it's just like stopping at random places on the road and kicking off people. I have like an old lady on my lap. I mean, it was just like, it was wild. And so that was probably one of my favorite experiences, is almost getting stranded on an island we couldn't get off of in Vietnam and potentially expelled if we didn't make it back. But it all worked out, as most things do in life.
No, those are the experiences that make travel. Like those like do or don't like do or die situations like I might get expelled from school or something drastic might happen. Doesn't mean it has to be that or whatever, but something might happen that's severe, you
Yeah.
know, and then you just come out of it
Yeah.
because and most of the time when you're traveling, you're going to be fine. You know, there's so many times where people have these situations where in stories like yours and just come out of them just fine and you figure out a way to make it. And most of the time, the locals are willing to help. That's the
Yeah.
thing, and they're like, you got to make it here. All right, what's the best option? And they figure it out for, like, help you figure it out, and like it's just it's so incredible to hear, stories like that. And that's what travel's about. Like, sometimes you're stuck, sometimes you're uncomfortable, and you just have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You just have to figure it out. And I want to know, on the cruise, on like the semester at sea, what is some of the better food you had, and what is some of the worst food you had
On the ship?
on
Oh,
in
just the
like the country, in the countries?
country?
Yeah.
Oh man. I think, and it's funny because we were just talking about this before the podcast started, but because we were both talking about how much we love Japan. But it's funny because you can like I said earlier, you can have the best meal of your life in a 7-Eleven in Japan, and you're like, I don't even know how this is possible. But I think some of my favorite food was in Japan. Just the sushi, the great, just everything about that culture and their food was absolutely incredible. Um, the worst food I had, I mean, I think I ended up eating alligator and frog in Africa. It was okay. Um, honestly, the ship food, you eat a lot of peanut butter and jellies.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. That's probably the worst of it. I mean, but yeah, I think, but yeah, I would say Japan was probably my favorite personally. But
Yeah, that would be. I think it has to be on everyone's top 10 if you actually had Japanese food, like
yeah.
at least top 10. Um, so about you said you had frog and alligator in Africa. You've been to Africa. Tell me about some of your experiences on that continent.
Um, it was really interesting. Oh, and I will say, I just remembered the worst food I had, I think, was in China. I just remembered that. Sorry.
No, no, no. What did you have there?
Well, I wasn't sure if it was like a dog or a cat at some points. Like, I just felt like I didn't know what it was. And I think it was rabbit at one point. For me, it didn't do it. I'm sure I just wasn't eating at the right places. It wasn't my favorite personally, but back to Africa. Yeah, no, Africa is such a cool continent. There's just so much there. Ghana was one of the most eye-opening places I went to just because I had a lot of friends that bad stuff happened. We had a teacher that was mugged in Ghana because I believe it was because he was gay. There was a prostitute that tried to steal someone's phone and she was beaten in the streets, and I mean just wild stuff that happened there where you're just shocked. You're at you know how different people's perceptions of things are and how different people live in a lot of ways. And um, so that was really cool, or interesting, I guess I should say, but still beautiful and awesome. I remember there was like pigs in the ocean, like just chilling on the beach. I think they were wild pigs. I actually don't know if they were had owners, but so just really interesting stuff like that. South Africa was awesome, just going to the safaris and it's more of that first world feel in a lot of ways. But that was really cool. And then we went up to Morocco as well, and that was awesome. Mauritius, it's like this little tiny, tiny island off the eastern part of southeastern part of Africa. And we didn't get to spend a ton of time there just because a lot of students ended up drinking too much and getting into trouble. So the school was like, you get like 12 hours to get off the ship and go there, and then you're back on the ship and we're going to South Africa. So but it was cool. We had a parents week or 5 days in South Africa. So my mom and stepdad ended up meeting me down there and got to go to some wineries and stuff like that. So overall, really cool. I can't wait to go back. I actually want to go do uh, my honeymoon. We wanted to go do our honeymoon there. I just got married, so we'll see if we end up making it back. But
Yeah, you recently got married. You mentioned he's from like a traditional Italian family and that you're studying Italian. Tell me a little bit about how him and how you met, and some study tips that you're using while learning Italian.
Yeah. So we met, at a pilot bar in Anchorage. Technically we had met once before, like years prior at a lake in Alaska called Big Lake. But I saw him again at F Street. It's a whole long story that is interesting but kind of funny. But anyway, so yeah, like you said, his family is Italian, and his grandfather sailed off the or yeah, sailed in from Italy into Ellis Island in New York and ended up joining the military and became a 2 or 3 star general. And at that time, uh, like at that time, I believe, from what I understand, is there was people in New York that were a little bit racist towards Italians. So his last name was Gerace, and he changed it to Gerace at the time because it sounded a little less Italian. And so, he worked his way up through the ranks in the military, married a New York ballerina, had this really cool life in New York, and but they moved around a lot. And so then my husband's dad was also in the military. They lived in Italy with the US military for a little bit. Um, and he practices dentistry. And so, anyway, they had their first son over in Italy and they speak Italian. And we're trying to see if someday we can get dual citizenship. But I looked it up a little and I need to be married for 3 years and speak the language fluently, which he doesn't have to do, but I do, which is funny. So, I mean, I don't know if I have any really good tips right now. I'm just using the Duolingo app, which has been awesome because I'm more of someone that likes to apply things to the real scenario. And I just feel like it's an easier way to learn. I don't know. It was recommended to me, and so I just downloaded it, and it's been great. But honestly, I've been kind of considering listening to some podcasts that have um like phrases and different things because it's easier to read, and I found I need to work on listening to it and being able to comprehend it. So, that's kind of what I'm working on right now, but very still beginning stages. Yeah, not very good. Work in progress on the Italian.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, you got married, you live here in Park City, and it's kind of like a home base for you. But you get to travel a lot through work and just on your off time. Talk about your recent travels with your husband.
Um, yeah, so we have been a little spontaneous lately just because we haven't had uh we don't have kids yet, and we have travel privileges through our work. And so yeah, on a whim, we just kind of well, what happened was I was on a layover in Nashville, and my two best friends live there. So I end up meeting up with them, and we're sitting around this table, and my best friend goes, "All right, Tay, you're gonna be mad." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "We just booked tickets to Paris this weekend." And I was like, "What?" And I was so jealous, and I called up my husband immediately, and I was like, what's the plan this weekend?" And he was like, I'm actually technically on vacation. And I was like, and I was able to drop a trip, and I was like, okay, let's do it. So within a 3-day notice, we were all kind of off to Paris for the weekend, which sounds pretty bougie, but I mean, it is. It's so crazy, but it's just kind of where we're at with life and being able to travel for free. And a little stressful because you never know how the flight loads are going to look, and you're like, I don't know if we're even going to be able to make it, but it worked out. And so we did that. um actually, we've done that kind of twice in the last year. I don't know why, but well, I do. It's We were already going, and then my friend was already going anyway. So we've done that. We're going to St. Thomas this weekend for Thanksgiving with some friends. It's really nice to have friends that like to travel. It
Absolutely.
makes it easier. to just go somewhere. So it's really nice to have people in life that are willing to just be spontaneous like that. But yeah, so we're gonna do that. And we were so focused on our our piloting careers for the last like five, 4.5, 5 years. So we haven't really had a lot of time to be able to go do a lot of this stuff. We've missed out on a lot of birthdays, a lot of holidays. And so we're kind of just, we feel like we're making up for it right now. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to think of where else we've been. We go up to Alaska, do some fishing and stuff like that. This summer we did that. Went out to Homer, but yeah, it's just stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you fly fish at all? Is that one of your passions?
Yeah, I really like to eat the fish I catch. So I like catching reds and, kings and salmon. My husband loves fly fishing though. And so whenever we go, I just let him set everything up for me. And it's I mean, I pick it up again, but it's kind of nice cuz he knows what he's doing. But it's funny cuz we went down like a couple summers ago down to the in Alaska. We went to the Russian River, and it's this really cool trail that you get to bike, and we were biking in our fishing waders, and then we have like our Yeti packs on, so we bike out to this spot and then hike down into the riverbank. And I told him, I was like, I'm bringing my red rod, and he was like, oh well, I'm bringing my fly rod. And I was like, okay. And so next thing you know, I am catching fish after fish and all this salmon, and I'm limiting out, and it's just like a freaking blast. And he just gets jealous, and he's like, "Could I see that?" And I'm like, "I thought you didn't want to catch reds." And so, he ended up stealing my rod, which was good because we came home with more fish. But I mean, it's awesome because you just fillet it right there and um, take it back home. But no, I mean, he loves it, and I think it's fun, and especially in Alaska, it's been interesting to see how different the fishing here is in Utah versus Alaska, and how differently you fish the rivers and what you use for it. So that part's been really cool, learning a whole different way of doing things here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot different in the aspect of wildlife. There's no grizzly bears here as opposed to Alaska
Yes.
that does have a fair amount of grizzly bears. Have
Right.
you ever had any encounters in Alaska at all?
Not so much with the grizzlies. The black bears, definitely. They're kind of weird because they're kind of a nuisance. Like they would come into my grandma's house and she's like shooing them out with a broom, like, get out of here. And but they are massive problems. Like I knew two people that got mauled by bears in Alaska. And so it's definitely it's no joke. It's not something to like not take seriously. But it is interesting on the flip side of that, we're fishing all the time, and there's a couple black bears right across from us. And it was funny, a few summers ago, my husband was actually fishing on the river, and those Sims packs, they're the fishing company. And anyway, he had the Sims pack, and it was on the bank, and this black bear came and took it. And I don't know, he was just like a little rascal thinking he was getting, I don't know, something. And my husband starts chasing after it, and he's like, drop it, drop it right now. And it did. It dropped it and ran away. So it's like, it's a balance between realizing that you definitely have to watch your back when you're on hikes and fishing and doing the things we love to do, but also realizing it's just a part of being up there and, you know, also doing those things you love. So, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of things you love to ski, and you mentioned Alyeska and Girdwood, growing up skiing there. How is that skiing as opposed to skiing in Utah?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, they're different. Um, in Alaska, there's one resort, right? And it's a lot smaller. It's super cool. It's really steep. It's small, but it's very, very steep. And so that's been another fun thing about being here in Utah. There's just so much more like access and ability to ski so much more. And a lot of these places you can you can skin and go into the backcountry even on the resorts, which I haven't done yet. Because in Alaska, if you want to go backcountry, you know, you have to. I mean, it's probably better to be avalanche trained and things like that, just because. But I mean, I'm sure it's the same here in at the resorts. I mean, you want to know what the snow's doing and all of that. But um, yeah, I mean, I would say it's just a little bit. It's just, and I guess it's hard because I haven't compared backcountry here to backcountry there. I've just done it in Alaska, but yeah, I mean, but I do know that the resorts it's a lot bigger and than what we've got, and it's a lot cheaper to be able to ski here just because there's more options. But it is awesome to be in Girdwood and skiing and overlooking the ocean. That's a pretty cool phenomenon. So, but both are awesome. I would highly recommend doing both. So,
Yeah, that's a different dynamic being in at the top of the mountain and looking in like directly at the ocean.
yeah.
At many ski resorts do not have that at all. Um, we're known for our powder and other things. We have good terrain. It's pretty accessible. What do you like most about Park City Mountain? I know you ski Deer Valley and Park City. What are some of your favorite runs, and tell me about why you like them?
Yeah, I am still getting my bearings with everything on the mountain. So, I don't know all the runs quite yet. Going up to 9990 was fun. That was fun. I mean, the biggest thing is it's so convenient being here in Park City to go ski Park City Mountain or go ski Deer Valley. But I do remember growing up when I was in middle school here in Utah, we'd go to Snowbird a lot. And I just remember the snow and the powder was just incredible and the train and like you were saying, but I don't remember all of like the runs. I'm just still trying to figure it all out because I feel like we can get lost. But it's crazy. You can take the gondola and the lifts and it takes you so far and into canyons. So it's just been really cool. The skiing here is awesome.
Yeah, Snowbird's a little bit more intense, and then you got to experience it uh, back when there wasn't so many people. Uh, Nowadays, like it's a task just to get up the Little Cottonwood Canyon.
Yeah.
It is, and they're building the gondola though. They got approved for a gondola
Oh,
to,
really?
yeah, so that goes up from the base of the Little Cottonwoods to Snowbird and Alta.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, even this last winter, my dad came to visit and we were trying to go up to Snowbird and on this powder day and the whole road shut down and we couldn't make it up there. It was a bummer, but yeah, that'll be really cool. I didn't know that.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of abbey danger with the Little Cottonwoods. It's one of the most dangerous for in that aspect, and probably the lower 48.
Yeah.
And um, but yeah, I mean, Park City is just so massive, and there's so many runs that I mean, sometimes I could see things blending together, and um,
Yeah.
it's just a cool spot, like the mixture of a little small town close to a bigger city, maybe 30 minutes, 35 minutes from the international airport, and you got two amazing ski resorts here. One that's literally 70 Park City's 7,200 acres with canyons, and then Deer Valley's 1,750 skiable acres without the expansion of the Mayflower expansion. That's going
Oh,
to be a
yeah.
lot bigger.
Crazy.
So it's just getting bigger, it's developing, and yeah. Tell me, what do you think makes Park City just a special town in general? Like, other than skiing, what about it do you like the most?
Oh, I just love how quaint it is. I love the main street is just adorable. I love that you can just walk to all of these amazing restaurants and bars and um it's just a feeling you have being here. It's just like nothing else. And I haven't gotten to ski Jackson Hole or Tahoe or some of these other big name places or Aspen or anything like that, but so I don't really know what to compare it to, but I in that regard, but there's just something about a ski town that's just magical, and being able to walk around to all of the different places, and um, you just feel like you're in your own little world out here, and it's pretty amazing. But yeah, I think the main street is really cute, and um, yeah, the people are nice, so far. We're gone a lot, obviously, but just getting to know people here has been awesome. And you still get, I mean, what's really cool, and I think that I don't think people realize, is it's a ski town, but there's all this golfing still and all of these other things to do in the summer, and amazing mountain biking and stuff like that. That's awesome as well. Yeah, I've heard the saying that you come here for the winters and stay for the summers. The
Yeah, that's
fishing.
definitely a local summer or a
Yeah.
local saying for
Yeah.
sure. Um, yeah, it's world class fly fishing, golfing, um, everything in between. You got hiking, mountain biking, the lift access for the mountain bikes, and then the trails just keep developing. They're constantly building new trails. Every season you come out, there's a new trail to explore on your mountain bike. And Deer Valley has an awesome program as well, like a trail program, and they're building like different stuff and new features all the time. And especially in the same with skiing, they're constantly figuring out new ways to make it better, building faster chairs, everything. And it speaks to the resources that Park City is able to have and pull from, and the money, and it's such a cool spot because it is a mining town. It used to be a mining town, and it's just not like a purpose built ski town. It's not like,
Right.
oh yeah, let's just build this here, in the middle of nowhere. Um, so I think it makes it a little bit more special, because it has
Definitely.
that history.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be skiing and you'll pass like an old mining like infrastructure. I don't know what it was used for, but it is really cool. It's very unique. And I do love that about this area too, is that they've done a great job about not overdeveloping the area. You still feel like you have all of this wide open spaces out here. And, I think they've done a good job of maintaining that. And you've got the Jordanelle Reservoir right there. So you feel like you've got a lake 10 minutes away. You've got world renowned fly fishing, skiing, golfing. Like it almost becomes a first world problem where you're like, I don't know what hobby to pick today. I don't know which one I'm going to do because there's so many fun things to do. So yeah, I feel so fortunate that we live here. We're absolutely loving it. So,
That's incredible. And so you have a Friendsgiving coming up in St. Thomas,
yeah.
which is incredible. That's a different dynamic. Just being somewhere on an island and being with your friends for Thanksgiving, your husband. Uh, or do you scuba dive? Do you do any water sports, or do you do anything like that other than fishing?
I have always wanted to get my sail like a captain's certificate for sailing, but obviously have been just a little preoccupied with all of the flying stuff over the last few years, but I would absolutely love to do that at some point. I just flew with a guy that went on a big sailing trip with some friends, and his buddy was a captain, so it was like a lot cheaper than hiring a captain to operate and stuff like that. So, I mean, I we've grown up on the lake in Alaska, so there's always like the you know, uh, wakeboarding and jet skiing and stuff that we would do. So we do some of that. But in St. Thomas, this is kind of crazy. My best friend went a little wild and got her boyfriend it's like oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It's so cool though. It's this like wakeboard with a fin at the bottom, and it like props you up.
A foil?
Foil, an
Yeah.
e-foil.
Hmm.
Yeah, she got him an e-foil. And so I imagine we'll go take that out. We are gonna do some fishing, deep sea fishing out there, which I've never fished for tuna, so that'll be kind of cool to bring home some pokey. Uh, but yeah, so we're gonna do that. We'll probably do another boat day, and then they'll take out the e-foil. So stuff like that, I imagine. But I'm really excited to check out that area. I don't know if you've been, but it sounds cool.
I've never been to that part of the Caribbean, but
Yeah.
definitely been a little bit, traveled a little bit in the Caribbean, and the water's just beautiful. I mean, there's so much to do as far as just there's beauty everywhere, great
Awesome.
food, good vibes.
Love
Everything
it.
everything is great, and as far as water sports, that's super cool. Like the e-foil, I've never done that myself, so
Yeah.
that should be an experience in itself.
I'm so excited for it. Yeah, everything from what I've heard, they just seem like a very laid back, just a laid back kind of vibes, which makes sense for being on an island. So excited.
Yeah. Other than that, do you have any place in the future, like a future trip that you're really looking forward to, or a country that you really want to visit?
Well, I mentioned that we're gonna try to do our honeymoon in Africa. Um, Honestly, a bucket list item for me is going down to Antarctica at some point. It's just trying to prioritize all of the trips. So Africa for sure for a honeymoon. My dad really wants to go ski Japan this winter. So going back to Japan, it's like one of my favorite countries. So we're gonna probably try to make that happen. Um, my girlfriends are just wanting to go to London. It becomes like again a first world problem where you're like, my husband's like, we've got to stop traveling. I'm like, so in December, I think we're taking it down a notch. He may go to Phoenix with his family and go golf. But anyway, so yeah, but I would say the ones I'm most excited about or a bucket list item for me would be Antarctica. Um, and then, I am excited to just go back and see some of these places because it's different when you're going back to a country now than when I was in college, being willing to like sleep on the street. Now I'm like, okay, I would like a hotel room, or like being in different hostels and stuff. I think that that was such a cool thing to be able to do at a young age. And now I feel kind of old, but I'm like, okay, it's kind of nice to, you travel in a different way and, um, and things change. So it's still experiencing the same countries, but differently too. So, um, yeah, so that stuff is always fun to look forward to.
Yeah, your travel changes when your budget changes as well. Like,
Right.
absolutely, and it should. It should.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. And yeah, you got some great places in store for you, and you got a great future in store for you, it seems like. And um, it's very cool what you're doing with your life. You're able to travel, you're able to do what you want, and make something, do something really cool with your life. And I really admire that a lot.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Um, so we're gonna wrap this up soon. But lastly, if you could leave the listeners with some advice, it could be travel or in general, what would that be?
Advice I would give is, you know, do the things you want to do when you're young. For me, that was traveling. For other people, that's not something they're interested in. But, I think as you get older and things get in the way of being able to accomplish those things. And so if you want to go on the trip or go, study abroad, do it while you're young because again, like I was saying, stuff kind of changes and gets in the way. So, um, just live it up and, without regrets, I guess. And yeah,
That's great advice, and I hope people that are listening got something from that. And um, hopefully, you follow your dreams as well and follow your passions, and it leads you to great things. Well, thank you so
yeah,
much for coming on, Taylor. I
yeah.
really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This
Yeah.
is really fun.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, I know everyone's time is precious, and it is the most valuable possession we have. So,
Absolutely.
well, with that, folks, always remember the world is your oyster.
That's a wrap on this episode of People, Places, and Things. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Whether you're dreaming of your next adventure or just love hearing stories from across the globe, we hope we inspired a bit of wanderlust in you today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with fellow travelers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, keep discovering new people, places, and things.